Aaron opened his eyes slowly. The world around him was not the one he remembered, though he could not be certain what he remembered. The sky above was a soft blend of green and gold, unlike any morning sky in the old stories he had heard. A warm wind brushed against his face, carrying a smell both fresh and strange, like flowers he had never seen before. He tried to sit up, but his body felt heavy and unfamiliar. Every step he took on the cracked ground made a soft crunch beneath his feet, and he realized he was standing in a world that time had forgotten. Around him were ruins. Old buildings lay broken and covered in thick vines. Some walls had collapsed completely, while others still stood like tired giants, leaning but holding on. Moss and strange glowing plants crawled over every surface, making the ruins shimmer under the soft sunlight. The streets were cracked, and nature had slowly begun to reclaim everything. Aaron could see trees growing through roofs, flowers pushing up through asphalt, and small streams that had cut new paths through the old roads. Aaron had no memory of how he had arrived here. His mind felt empty, like a page waiting to be written. He tried to recall his name, his family, or any details of his life, but nothing came. Only a sense of curiosity pushed him forward. He took a deep breath and stepped cautiously through the ruins, careful not to trip over fallen beams or broken stones. As he walked, he noticed statues of people. Some were broken, others still stood tall. Each statue had eyes that seemed to watch him. He shivered slightly but felt no fear. Instead, he was filled with wonder. Who had made these? Who had lived here long ago? In the distance, a faint light flickered. It moved slowly, almost as if it were alive. Aaron's curiosity grew stronger. He decided to follow it. As he walked, he noticed strange machines half buried in the dirt. They were enormous and complex, with parts that had rusted and stopped moving long ago. Some had screens, buttons, and levers, but all were silent. Aaron reached out and touched one. The metal was cold under his fingers. Then suddenly a faint hum vibrated through the air. Aaron pulled his hand back, startled, but the sound was not threatening. Instead, it felt like it was calling to him. The light led him to a building that had somehow survived time better than the others. Its doors were tall and curved, though many were broken. Inside, dust covered everything, and the smell of old wood and stone filled the air. Shelves lined the walls, holding books and strange devices. Aaron ran his fingers over the spines of the books. Some had letters he could not read, while others had images of people, animals, and machines. He picked one up carefully and opened it. The pages were brittle but filled with drawings that seemed alive. On a table in the middle of the room, a crystal glowed softly. Its light pulsed like a heartbeat. Aaron felt drawn to it. When he touched it, a voice echoed in his mind, soft and distant. "You are the first of the new beginning." Aaron stepped back, startled. He looked around the room, but there was no one. The voice seemed to come from the crystal itself. He asked aloud, Who are you?" There was no answer, only silence. Aaron felt a shiver run down his spine, but again he did not feel fear. The voice had not been threatening. Instead, it filled him with a strange sense of importance, like he had been chosen for something. He held the crystal gently, turning it in his hands. The light inside seemed to respond, brightening slightly as he moved it. For hours, Aaron explored the building. He found more rooms, each filled with relics of the past. Some had machines that looked like they could fly. Others had containers filled with strange powders and liquids. On the walls, murals showed people in cities walking on streets and flying in the skies. There were pictures of animals too, some he recognized, some completely unknown. In the corner of one room, a small pool of water reflected the glowing crystal. Aaron saw his own face in it, pale and confused, yet determined. Outside, the world was alive with movement. Birds with shimmering feathers flew overhead. Small creatures peeked from behind rocks and trees, curious but not afraid. Aaron noticed that some plants seemed to move gently when he approached, like they were aware of his presence. He knelt down to touch one, and it quivered slightly under his fingers. The world around him was strange, but it was beautiful in a way he had never imagined. As the sun moved across the sky, Aaron realized he needed to find shelter for the night. He chose a small building that still had a roof and barricaded the broken door with stones. Inside, he placed the glowing crystal on a table and watched it softly pulse. He did not understand its purpose yet, but he felt it was important. As darkness fell, he sat quietly, listening to the sounds of the new world. The wind whispered through broken windows, leaves rustled outside, and distant creatures made noises like soft chimes. That night, Aaron dreamed. He saw people walking in the cities he had explored, laughing and working. He saw machines moving through the air and water. He saw nature growing, and he saw something else, something strange. A giant shadow moved across the earth, and a voice whispered, "Remember, learn, protect." Aaron woke suddenly, his heart pounding. The dream was vivid, and it felt like a memory, even though he knew he had never lived before this moment. The next morning, Aaron decided he had to understand more. He left the building and followed the paths through the ruins. Every step revealed new wonders, broken statues that told stories, plants that glowed in different colors, and tiny creatures that watched him curiously. He climbed to the top of a fallen building and looked out across the land. The ruins stretched for miles, interspersed with forests, rivers, and hills. He realized the world was huge and he was completely alone in it. Yet Aaron did not feel lonely. He felt alive. He felt that he had been given a purpose even if he did not fully understand it. The crystal's words echoed in his mind again. "You are the first of the new beginning." He wondered if there were others like him, or if he was truly alone. The thought made his heart beat faster. He continued exploring, discovering strange devices buried in the earth. When he touched some, they sparked to life, projecting faint images of the past. He saw people walking, talking, and working. He saw children playing, animals running, and machines moving. Each vision lasted only a few moments before fading, but they gave him a sense of what had been lost. Aaron realized the humans who once lived here had been gone for a very long time. Their cities, their knowledge, and their life had vanished, leaving only ruins and memories. As the sun began to set, Aaron returned to the building with the crystal. The light from the sky and the crystal combined, casting long shadows on the walls. He placed the crystal carefully on the table and sat next to it. For the first time since he woke, he allowed himself to feel tired. He thought about the day, the ruins, the machines, the animals, and the strange voice that had called him. He realized that this world, though abandoned by humans, was alive and full of secrets. He did not know what the future held, but he knew he wanted to discover it. As darkness fell, Aaron whispered to the crystal, "I will learn. I will understand. I will not be afraid." The crystal pulsed softly in response, as if it had heard him. Outside, the wind moved through the ruins, carrying the scent of new life. Aaron closed his eyes and let sleep take him, knowing that when he woke, the world would still be waiting, full of mysteries, dangers, and wonders. He was awake in the ruins of Earth, 15,000 years after humanity disappeared, and his journey had only just begun. The next morning, Aaron woke to a soft green-gold light streaming through the broken windows of the building. The crystal on the table pulsed gently as if it were alive and breathing. He stretched, feeling muscles he did not remember having, and stepped outside. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of plants and water, and somewhere in the distance he heard the faint roar of moving water. Today, he decided, he would explore farther than before. Aaron walked along the cracked streets, noticing details he had not seen the day before. The ruins were enormous, far larger than he had imagined. Towering buildings leaned at impossible angles, their stone surfaces covered in glowing moss. Trees had grown through walls and roofs, twisting around the remains of human structures. Birds with bright feathers perched on crumbling ledges, singing songs that filled the air with music. Small animals scuttled across the ground, some resembling rabbits, others looking like strange mixes of creatures he had only seen in pictures from the old recordings. He came upon a wide square where a giant statue had once stood. Now it was broken into pieces and vines crawled across its stone face. Aaron stepped carefully over the fragments, noticing carved symbols along the base. They seemed like letters but twisted and worn, impossible to read clearly. He traced them with his fingers, wondering who had carved them and what they had meant. Even though he could not read the symbols, he felt a strange connection to them, as if the words carried energy that reached across time. While exploring, Aaron discovered something unusual. Small devices were half buried in the dirt, unlike the machines he had seen before. Some had screens, buttons, and levers, though most were silent. He picked one up and brushed away the dirt. Suddenly it hummed to life, projecting a faint image of a person. The holographic figure flickered and spoke in a soft, calm voice. "The humans are gone. Nature has reclaimed the Earth. You are part of the cycle now. Learn, survive, and carry memory. Aaron's heart raced. The message was clear and strange at the same time. Humans were gone, but he had been awakened to witness the world, to understand what had come before, and perhaps to guide what would come after. He looked at the holographic figure and tried to ask questions, but it disappeared before he could speak. Only silence remained. Determined to understand more, Aaron followed the streets deeper into the ruins. He came across a river that had carved its way through the city long ago. Water sparkled in the sunlight, clear and fresh, and small fish swam lazily beneath the surface. He knelt to drink, amazed at how life had adapted despite the absence of humans. Across the river he saw what looked like a garden, carefully cultivated long ago but now wild and untamed. Strange flowers grew in colors he had never seen before, blue that shimmered like water, orange that glowed like fire, and green that sparkled under the sunlight. As Aryan explored the garden, he noticed movement. Small creatures with soft fur and shining eyes peeked from behind plants. Some had 6 legs, others had wings, and all seemed curious about him. They did not flee, nor did they attack. Aaron knelt and extended his hand slowly. One of the creatures stepped forward, sniffed his fingers, and then ran back to the others. Aaron laughed softly. "Hello," he said. "I'm not here to hurt you." The creatures chirped in response, and for a moment he felt less alone in the world. He continued his journey, walking through forests that had grown where streets and buildings had once been. Giant trees towered over him, their roots breaking through concrete and stone. The air was alive with sound, the rustling of leaves, the calls of birds, and the hum of insects moving in the undergrowth. Aaron discovered animals of all kinds, some small and gentle, others enormous but peaceful. A creature with a long glowing tail watched him from a distance, then disappeared into the trees. Aaron realized the world was not only surviving without humans, it was thriving. At the edge of the forest he found a cave hidden behind a curtain of vines. Curiosity pulled him inside. The walls were covered with paintings, faded but still vivid enough to tell stories. People were depicted walking through cities, flying in machines, and interacting with animals. Some paintings showed machines that could travel through air and water. Others showed humans planting trees and caring for animals. There were even warnings, symbols that seemed to warn about destruction, greed, and pride. Aaron traced the paintings with his fingers, imagining what life must have been like before humanity disappeared. In the cave, he found a small pool of water. When he looked into it, his reflection stared back, tired but determined. He thought about the crystal and the voice he had heard. Something about this world called to him. He felt that he was meant to explore, learn, and remember. Every step he took, every discovery he made felt like a piece of a puzzle he had been tasked to complete. As he exited the cave, he noticed a strange glow in the distance. Moving toward it, he came across a device half buried in the ground. It was larger than any he had seen, with levers, buttons, and screens that flickered faintly. When he touched it, a holographic map projected into the air. Glowing dots appeared across the land, marking places where life had survived and grown. Aaron realized these were safe zones, protected somehow, where creatures and plants thrived. He also saw red dots, places that had been destroyed, now overrun by wild nature. Aaron studied the map for hours, tracing paths from one safe zone to another. He noticed patterns, rivers leading to forests, mountains shielding valleys, and cities now reduced to ruins. The map seemed to tell a story of survival, adaptation, and rebirth. Aaron understood that this world, though abandoned by humans, was not empty. Life had found a way to continue, and he was now part of its story. By afternoon, he felt the need to rest. He climbed to the top of a fallen building and looked out over the ruins. The city stretched for miles, blending with forests, rivers, and hills. Everywhere he looked, he saw evidence of life's resilience. Despite the destruction of humanity, the earth was alive and beautiful. Aaron felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. He had been awakened into a world that had survived, but he sensed that his actions could influence what came next. He descended carefully, returning to the area where he had found the crystal. It pulsed softly as if sensing his return. Aaron placed it back on the table and sat nearby, letting his mind wander. He thought about the messages he had found, the creatures he had seen, and the stories hidden in the ruins. He realized that he was not simply exploring the world, he was learning from it, preparing for something greater. As the sun began to set, The sky shifted into deeper shades of green and gold. Shadows stretched across the ruins and the air grew cooler. Aaron listened to the sounds of the new world. The rustling of leaves, the chirping of birds settling for the night, and the distant roar of water moving over rocks. The world was alive, and he felt that he had finally begun to understand it. That night, Aaron slept beneath the open sky, the glowing crystal at his side. He dreamed of cities filled with people, machines soaring through the air, and forests thriving in harmony with humanity. But he also dreamed of the end. Storms that tore through cities, machines that failed, and humans disappearing from the earth. A voice whispered again in his mind. Remember. Learn. Protect. Aaron woke suddenly. Heart pounding, but he felt determination instead of fear. He understood that he had been given a purpose, to witness, learn, and guide the world that remained. The next morning, Aaron packed what little he had found and set out once more. The ruins stretched endlessly, but he felt ready. He had discovered safe zones, learned about creatures and plants, and glimpsed the history of humanity. Each step forward revealed new wonders: glowing flowers, streams with fish, and animals of every shape and size. Aaron realized that the world was full of life, waiting for someone to understand and protect it. As he walked, he thought about the words he had heard. You are part of the cycle now. The idea settled in his mind. He was not alone, even if no other humans remained. The Earth itself was alive, and he had a role in its story. With every discovery, he grew more certain that he had been awakened for a reason. The ruins of the past were not just reminders of what had been. They were lessons guiding him toward a new beginning. By evening, Aaron reached the edge of a vast forest, taller and denser than any he had seen. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting patterns on the ground. He stepped carefully into the forest, feeling both excitement and caution. Every rustle, every movement caught his attention. He knew that life thrived here in ways he could not yet imagine, and he was determined to learn all of it. Aaron stepped carefully into the dense forest. The tall trees blocked much of the green-gold sunlight, creating shadows that moved like living things. He could hear rustling all around him, the soft crack of branches and the faint hum of insects. The air smelled of earth and leaves, a smell he had begun to associate with life itself. Every step he took seemed to awaken something hidden in the forest. After walking for hours, Aaron heard a faint noise, soft but distinct. It was a kind of chirp followed by a rustle of leaves. He stopped and listened carefully. Slowly, a small creature emerged from the undergrowth. It had soft golden fur, 6 delicate legs, and long ears that twitched at every sound. Its eyes shone like tiny crystals in the dim light. Aaron froze, unsure if the creature would run or attack. The creature tilted its head, watching him curiously. Aaron extended his hand slowly, palm up. He spoke softly. I am not here to hurt you. The creature stepped forward cautiously, sniffed his fingers, and then retreated a few steps. After a moment, it returned and nudged his hand gently. Aaron smiled. Hello, he whispered. I will call you Lumo. From that moment, Lumo became Aaron's companion. The small creature followed him closely, always alert, always curious. Together they explored the forest, discovering new paths, hidden streams, and strange plants that glowed faintly in the shadows. Some plants seemed to move when Aaron approached, curling their leaves gently as if acknowledging his presence. He touched them lightly, fascinated by their response. Days passed as Aaron and Lumo traveled together. They found ruins partially hidden by trees, old buildings, half-buried statues, and cracked roads overgrown with moss. Each discovery filled Aaron with awe. He studied the structures, imagining the people who had built them. Some buildings were massive, with high ceilings and large windows, while others were small and simple. Perhaps homes for families long gone. The forest had claimed all of them, but it did so gracefully, weaving nature through stone and metal. One day, Aaron discovered a small pond. The water was clear and calm, reflecting the green-gold sky. He knelt to drink and noticed fish swimming beneath the surface, some glowing faintly. Suddenly, a large shadow moved across the pond. Aaron looked up and saw a creature unlike any he had seen before. It was tall, with long legs, glowing eyes, and wings folded neatly along its back. The creature regarded him silently before turning and disappearing into the trees. Aaron's heart raced. He realized the forest was full of life far beyond what he had imagined. As they explored, Aaron found a cave hidden behind thick vines. Curious, he entered. Inside, the walls were covered with ancient paintings. Some depicted humans walking in cities, flying in machines, and interacting with animals. Others showed people planting trees, studying the stars, and building towering structures. Some paintings were warnings showing storms, collapsing buildings, and humans disappearing. Aaron traced the images with his fingers, feeling connected to a past he had never lived. Lumo watched him silently, eyes glowing faintly. The cave also held a small pool of water. Aaron looked at his reflection and saw his own face, pale but determined. He thought of the crystal and the voice he had heard. "You are the first of the new beginning." For the first time, he felt a clear sense of purpose. He understood that he was not just exploring the world, he was learning its history, understanding its present, and preparing for its future. Outside the cave, the forest seemed even more alive. Flowers glowed in the fading light and small creatures scurried across the ground. Aaron noticed patterns in the movement of animals and plants as if the forest itself had a rhythm. He began to understand that the world was intelligent in its own way, alive not just in body but in spirit. He spoke softly to Lumo. "We are part of this even if humans are gone. We must learn and protect it." Lumo chirped in response, hopping onto his shoulder. As days turned into weeks, Aaron and Lumo explored farther. They discovered vast fields where glowing plants grew in rows, forests that stretched beyond the horizon, and rivers that carved paths through the land. They even found small mountains with caves inside, each filled with strange minerals and glowing crystals. Aaron collected samples carefully, studying their shapes and colors. He realized that Earth had changed in ways humans had never imagined. Life had adapted, evolved, and thrived without interference. One afternoon, they came across a valley filled with flowers that emitted soft light. In the center of the valley was a large stone structure, almost temple-like, covered in vines and moss. Aaron approached cautiously. The stone was cold under his fingers, but the carvings were still visible. They depicted humans interacting with animals and nature, guiding and protecting them. Aaron realized this place must have been important to the people who lived here long ago. Inside the structure, Aaron found more devices. Some projected holographic images of humans planting trees, building cities, and studying the stars. Others projected maps of the world, showing safe areas where life had survived and dangerous zones where nature had reclaimed everything. Aaron studied the maps carefully, tracing paths and noting patterns. He began to understand that the world was not random. It had a rhythm, and he had to learn it. During their exploration, Aaron and Lumo faced challenges. Some areas were dangerous, filled with fallen trees, hidden pits, or rivers with strong currents. Strange storms appeared without warning, with winds that could knock a person down and rain that came in sheets. Aaron learned to read the signs, the smell of the air, the color of the clouds, and the behavior of animals. Lumo seemed to sense danger instinctively, guiding him safely through each situation. Despite the dangers, Aaron never felt fear in the same way humans might. He felt alert, aware, and connected to the world. Each challenge taught him something new: how to move quietly, how to find food and water, and how to understand the creatures around him. He began to feel a deep respect for this world, realizing that life had found a way to survive without humans, and it was beautiful. One night, as they camped in a clearing under the stars, Aaron spoke softly to Lumo. "We are not alone, Lumo. This world is full of life, full of stories. We must learn them all." The forest responded with gentle sounds, the rustling of leaves, the chirping of insects, and the distant calls of animals. Aaron felt a sense of peace. For the first time, he felt that he was part of something larger than himself. Over time, Aaron discovered that some creatures were intelligent in ways he had not expected. Small animals followed him, bringing him food or leading him to water. Birds seemed to guide him through the forest, chirping and flying ahead. Even plants appeared to respond to his presence, opening flowers or moving leaves when he approached. Aaron realized that the world was communicating with him, teaching him, guiding him. As the weeks passed, Aaron grew stronger and wiser. He learned to navigate the forest with ease, to understand the patterns of animals, and to recognize safe zones. Lumo remained by his side, a constant companion and friend. Together, they explored ruins, forests, rivers, and valleys, uncovering secrets that had been hidden for thousands of years. Aaron began to understand that his awakening was not a coincidence. He had been chosen to witness this world, to learn its history, and to protect its future. One evening, as the sun set and the sky glowed green and gold, Aaron and Lumo reached a cliff overlooking a vast valley. Below, rivers sparkled, forests stretched endlessly, and glowing flowers lit the ground. He could see animals moving through the landscape, some large, some small, all thriving. Aaron felt a surge of hope. The world was alive and he was awake in it. He whispered to Lumo, "We are part of this. We can help it grow, guide it, and protect it." Lumo chirped softly as if agreeing. Aaron knew that his journey had only begun. The world was vast, full of mysteries, creatures, and secrets waiting to be discovered. He felt a deep sense of purpose, a calling to learn everything he could, to understand the rhythm of this new Earth, and to ensure that life would continue to thrive. As night fell, the valley below glowed softly with the lights of plants and creatures. Aaron and Lumo settled on the cliff, watching the world breathe. For the first time, Aaron felt truly connected to the Earth, to life, and to the legacy of humans who had once lived here. He knew that he had found friends, not only in Lumo, but in the world itself. The ruins, the forests, the rivers, and the creatures were all part of a story, and he was ready to learn it. With the green-gold sky fading into the soft darkness of night, Aaron closed his eyes and let sleep take him. He dreamed of forests, rivers, and creatures, of humans from the past, and of a world full of life. He dreamed of adventures yet to come and friends yet to meet. When he woke, he would continue his journey, exploring, learning, and protecting the new Earth, step by step, with Lumo by his side. The morning sun filtered through the dense forest as Aaron and Lumo continued their journey. The soft light touched the tops of the trees, making them shimmer with a gentle green-gold glow. Birds chirped, small creatures rustled in the underbrush, and somewhere in the distance water ran over rocks in a soft, continuous hum. Aaron took a deep breath, feeling alive in a world that had long forgotten humans. As they walked, Aaron noticed the terrain changing. The trees grew taller and closer together, their roots forming natural bridges over streams and gullies. The ground was uneven, littered with rocks, fallen branches, and glowing plants that illuminated the path. He moved carefully, with Lumo following close, alert to every sound. The forest felt alive, almost aware of their presence. Each step seemed to wake something hidden in the shadows. After hours of walking, they arrived at a wide valley unlike any place Aaron had seen before. The valley was surrounded by steep cliffs covered in glowing moss and vines. At the bottom, a river sparkled in the sunlight, winding through fields of strange flowers that glowed softly. Aaron noticed movement in the distance, creatures of all sizes, some with wings, others with long glowing tails. They moved peacefully, grazing, playing, and exploring the valley. In the center of the valley, partially hidden by trees, Aaron saw a large stone structure. It was different from the ruins he had seen before. The walls were smoother, taller, and covered with carvings. Symbols, shapes, and images adorned every surface. He felt a pull toward the structure, a sense that something important waited inside. Lumo chirped and ran ahead, leading him toward the entrance. The door to the structure was massive, though worn and cracked with age. Aaron pushed it open slowly, and a rush of cool air welcomed him. Inside, the room was enormous. The walls glowed faintly with symbols he did not understand, and the floor was covered with strange machines. Some looked like instruments for measuring, others like devices for communication or storage. In the center of the room was a pedestal with a large crystal, pulsing with soft, steady light. As Aaron approached the crystal, a holographic figure appeared. It flickered for a moment and then stabilized, showing a person in ancient clothing. The figure spoke in a calm voice. "Welcome, Guardian. You have awakened at the right time. The humans are gone, but life remains. You must learn from the past and guide the future. The Earth relies on your memory." Aaron stepped back slightly, surprised. "Guardian?" he whispered. "What do you mean, me?" The figure nodded. "You are the first of the new beginning. You must understand what was lost and protect what remains. Knowledge is your tool. Wisdom is your guide. Do not fear, for the cycle continues through you." Aaron's mind raced. He thought of the ruins, the creatures, the glowing plants, and the crystal that had first called to him. He realized that he had a purpose far greater than exploration. He was not just surviving. He was learning, remembering, and preparing to protect the world. Lumo chirped softly, rubbing against his leg as if sensing the importance of the moment. The holographic figure extended a hand, pointing to a nearby device. "This will help you access the knowledge of the past. Learn, observe, and understand. Life has adapted since humans disappeared, but the wisdom of the old world can guide the new world's growth. Aaron approached the device cautiously. As he touched it, images and sounds filled the air. He saw humans building cities, traveling across water and land, and reaching into the skies with flying machines. He saw people planting trees, studying stars, and caring for animals. Some images were warnings. Aaron saw humans fighting, machines breaking, and cities collapsing under storms. He understood that the humans of the past had made mistakes, and the world had suffered. The lesson was clear. Knowledge alone was not enough. It must be applied with care. Aaron realized that his responsibility was not just to remember the past, but to guide the future wisely. He spent hours learning from the devices. Some projected maps of the Earth, showing changes over thousands of years. Glowing dots marked areas where life had survived and flourished, while red marks indicated regions destroyed or abandoned. Aaron traced the paths of rivers, forests, and mountains, noticing how the terrain had shifted over time. He began to understand the patterns of life, the safe zones, the dangerous areas, and the places where creatures had adapted most successfully. Lumo remained by his side, chirping occasionally and moving between Aaron's feet and the pedestal. The small creature seemed to sense the flow of knowledge, guiding Aaron's attention to details he might have missed. Together they explored the room, studying symbols, devices, and maps. Aaron felt a growing sense of power and responsibility. He could see how the world had survived without humans, and he realized that his choices could influence the growth of life in ways humans had not imagined. As night approached, Aaron climbed to a small balcony overlooking the valley. The sky glowed green-gold, reflecting in the river and illuminating the glowing flowers below. He could see animals moving through the landscape, creatures of every shape and size, all thriving. Aaron felt a sense of awe. The world was alive, and he was awake in it. He whispered softly, "I will learn. I will understand. I will guide this world." Lumo chirped in agreement, perched on his shoulder. Over the next days, Aaron explored deeper into the valley, discovering hidden caves, glowing groves, and small lakes filled with life. He found creatures that seemed intelligent, birds that guided him through the forest, animals that brought him food, and plants that reacted to his presence. He realized that the world itself was communicating with him, teaching him the lessons it had learned over thousands of years. One day, Aaron discovered a chamber beneath the stone structure. The entrance was hidden by vines, but he found it by noticing a faint glow. Inside, the walls were covered with murals depicting the history of humanity. He saw people building cities, exploring new lands, and learning about the stars. He saw machines that moved through air and water, carrying humans to places they had never reached before. The murals also showed destruction, storms, earthquakes, and the disappearance of humanity. Aaron traced the images carefully, feeling the weight of the past. He realized that the humans had left behind both knowledge and warnings. Their cities had been magnificent, but their mistakes had led to their disappearance. The Earth had survived, but only because life had adapted and persevered. Aaron understood that he had been awakened to continue this cycle, to guide life with wisdom and care. As he emerged from the chamber, Aaron noticed a small stream nearby. The water was clear and calm, reflecting the glowing moss and plants around it. He knelt to drink and watched fish swim beneath the surface, some glowing softly. Lumo played near the edge, chasing insects and hopping between rocks. Aaron smiled. The valley was alive, full of lessons and waiting for him to understand. Each day, Aaron practiced using the devices and studying the murals. He learned to repair small machines, interpret symbols, and store knowledge for the future. Lumo stayed close, always observing, always alert. Together, they mapped the valley, noting safe areas, resources, and places of danger. Aaron realized that the valley itself was a living classroom, teaching him the ways of life after humanity. As days turned into weeks, Aaron felt himself changing. He was no longer just a wanderer. He was a student, a protector, and a witness. He understood the patterns of life, the rhythms of the forest, and the behavior of creatures. He saw how rivers carved paths, how plants adapted to light and soil, and how animals survived and thrived. Every discovery deepened his connection to the world. One evening, as the sky glowed with green-gold light, Aaron climbed to the top of a hill overlooking the valley. The view was breathtaking. Rivers winding through forests, glowing plants lighting the ground, and animals moving freely. He felt a surge of hope. The world had survived without humans, and he had been awakened to help it thrive. He whispered to Lumo, "We are part of this, Lumo. We must learn, remember, and protect." Lumo chirped softly, nuzzling his hand. Aaron realized that knowledge alone was not enough. He had to act, to guide, to ensure that life continued in balance. He understood that the past had lessons, the present had opportunities, and the future depended on his choices. The crystal, the valley, the creatures, and the devices were all part of a single purpose: to awaken him to the responsibility of life itself. As night fell, Aaron settled on the hill with Lumo by his side. The stars twinkled above, strange and beautiful, and the valley glowed softly below. He thought about humanity, the world, and his place in it. He felt ready for the next step, knowing that his journey was far from over. The earth was alive, full of life and secrets, and he was awake in it. For the first time, he truly understood his role: to learn, to remember, and to guide the new world. The sun rose slowly over the valley, casting soft green-gold light across the forest and rivers. Aaron stood on a hill overlooking the land. Lumo perched on his shoulder. For weeks he had explored the valley, learned from the machines, studied the murals, and observed the creatures that thrived without humans. Now he felt ready to take the next step. It was time to not only learn but to act. Aaron walked carefully through the valley, noting every detail. He revisited the glowing fields, the streams filled with fish, and the small caves where animals had made homes. The creatures greeted him in their quiet ways, birds fluttering near him, small animals following his steps, and glowing plants bending gently toward him. Aaron realized that the world responded to him as if he were part of its rhythm. He felt a deep sense of responsibility. He returned to the stone structure in the center of the valley. The crystal pulsed softly, and the devices hummed with energy as he approached. Aaron touched the control panel, and a holographic figure appeared. "Guardian," it said, "you have learned much. The Earth is ready for guidance. Protect the balance, share knowledge, and ensure life continues." Aaron nodded. He understood that the knowledge he had gathered was not meant to stay hidden. It was to help life thrive. Over the next days, Aaron began his work. He repaired some of the machines, setting them to help creatures travel safely across the valley. Bridges formed over rivers, small shelters were restored for animals, and devices projected light in dark areas to guide nocturnal creatures. Every action was deliberate. Aaron wanted to ensure that life would flourish without danger and without interference. Lumo helped constantly, hopping from place to place, guiding Aaron to areas that needed attention. As Aaron worked, he noticed new patterns. Creatures began to explore further, learning to interact with the changes he had made. Birds flew along the paths he had cleared, leading smaller animals safely through forests. Some plants began to grow more vigorously near the devices he had repaired, as if sensing his presence. Aaron realized that his actions had a ripple effect. The world responded to care and attention, growing stronger with every choice he made. One afternoon, Aaron climbed to a cliff overlooking the valley. The view took his breath away. Rivers sparkled, forests stretched endlessly, and glowing flowers lit the ground like stars fallen to earth. Animals moved freely below, hunting, playing, and exploring. He realized that the world, though once abandoned by humans, was now thriving in harmony. He whispered to Lumo, "We have done much, but there is more to learn. The world is alive, and we must guide it carefully." Lumo chirped softly, nuzzling his hand. Aaron continued to explore beyond the valley. He found other ruins, smaller and more scattered, hidden by forests and hills. Each place held knowledge, devices, murals, and tools left by humans long ago. Aaron studied them carefully, learning how they had worked and what they had been used for. Some were storage devices filled with seeds, animals, or minerals. Others projected maps and records of human life. Aaron understood that the humans had left everything they could to guide future life, even if they themselves were gone. As he traveled, he discovered other creatures he had not seen before. Some were intelligent, using tools and creating shelters. Others were timid but curious. Aaron realized that life had diversified in his absence, adapting to the ruins of humanity and the wild forests that had grown in their place. He began to teach the creatures gently, using gestures, sounds, and devices. Birds learned to follow certain paths, small animals learned to avoid dangerous areas, and glowing plants seemed to respond to his presence. The days passed, and Aaron's understanding of the valley deepened. He mapped safe zones, studied the patterns of rivers, and recorded the behaviors of every creature he encountered. Lumo remained a faithful companion, guiding him and providing comfort when the work was tiring. Together, they became part of the world they had come to protect, not rulers, but guides and witnesses. One day, Aaron returned to the stone structure and activated the largest device he had yet discovered. A holographic map of the entire Earth appeared. Glowing dots marked places of thriving life, and red marks showed areas where nature struggled. Aaron traced paths between the dots, understanding how rivers, forests, and mountains connected all life. He realized that the world was a network, alive and interdependent. Every action he took affected not just the valley but the entire Earth. Aaron spent hours planning. He adjusted devices, repaired old machines, and created systems that would help life survive in the long term. Bridges connected distant safe zones, shelters protected animals from storms, and seeds were planted in areas that had been barren for centuries. Every decision was careful and deliberate. Aaron felt the weight of responsibility, but also a deep sense of hope. As weeks turned into months, life in the valley began to change noticeably. Animals became more confident, plants grew more vibrant, and the flow of the rivers improved. Aaron watched as new patterns emerged, creatures exploring areas they had never visited, seeds taking root and growing into thriving plants, and small machines guiding animals safely across difficult terrain. The valley had become a living ecosystem, guided by his knowledge and care. One evening, as the sun set and the sky glowed in shades of green and gold, Aaron climbed the highest hill. Below, the valley stretched endlessly, alive and vibrant. Lumo perched on his shoulder, chirping softly. Aaron realized that his journey had changed not only the valley but also himself. He had grown stronger, wiser, and more connected to the earth. He understood the rhythm of life, the balance between danger and safety, and the importance of memory. He knelt on the hill, touching the ground, feeling the pulse of life beneath his fingers. The crystal's glow reflected in the river below, and the devices hummed faintly as if acknowledging his efforts. Aaron whispered to Lumo, "We have helped the world grow again. But this is only the beginning. Life will continue and we must guide it wisely." Lumo chirped in agreement, and together they watched the valley breathe under the soft evening light. Aaron realized that the past had lessons, the present offered opportunities, and the future depended on his actions. Humanity was gone, but their knowledge and wisdom had survived in the ruins, the devices, and the land itself. Aaron had become a guardian, a teacher, and a guide. He understood that life, though fragile, could flourish if nurtured and respected. The nights were filled with stars, strange and beautiful in the green-gold sky. Aaron often climbed hills to watch the world sleep, listening to the rustle of leaves, the calls of animals, and the hum of machines. He felt peace knowing that the valley and the creatures within it were safe. Each day brought new discoveries, challenges, and lessons, and Aaron embraced them all. As months passed, Aaron began to think about the larger world. Beyond the valley, other lands waited to be explored. Other ruins held knowledge, and other creatures awaited guidance. He understood that his purpose extended beyond a single place. The earth was vast, full of life, and he was its witness and guardian. Lumo chirped beside him, ready to explore, learn, and protect alongside him. Aaron's work continued. He repaired machines, studied murals, and mapped safe zones. He taught creatures to navigate rivers, climb hills, and find food. He planted seeds, restored habitats, and ensured the balance of life in every corner of the valley. Slowly, the world responded, thriving in ways humans had never imagined. Aaron realized that the mistakes of the past could guide the future, and he was ready to use that knowledge wisely. One morning, as sunlight glimmered on the river, Aaron stood at the edge of the valley. Lumo chirped happily beside him, and he looked across the land. The forests, rivers, and glowing fields were alive. Creatures moved freely and plants flourished. Aaron smiled. The earth, though once abandoned, was now a world full of hope, guided by memory, wisdom, and care. He knelt and whispered to the land, "The past is gone, but the future is ours. We will learn. We will grow. We will protect." Lumo chirped in agreement, and together they stepped forward into the valley, ready to continue their work. The ruins of the past were no longer reminders of loss. They were the foundation for a new beginning. Life would flourish again, stronger and wiser than before, guided by Aaron and the lessons of history. As the sun set, the valley glowed softly under the green-gold sky. The rivers sparkled, forests swayed gently, and creatures moved freely. Aaron watched with hope in his heart. For the first time, he felt truly at home in the world. Humanity was gone, but life endured, and Aaron was awake in a new beginning, ready to guide it toward a bright future.